Have you ever been told you're so sweet so many times that you wonder if that's all people see in you?
Maybe you've built your entire identity around being the agreeable one, the easygoing one, the one who never causes problems. But deep down, you're exhausted from always having to be on.
If you've ever wondered whether your sweetness is actually your authentic personality or something you may have learned to survive, this video is for you.
Today, we're going to be exploring how sweet can become a survival strategy and how to reclaim your full, complex, beautifully human self without losing the kindness that genuinely matters to you.
Hi, we're Tehrina and Joel Terry. We're licensed therapists here to help you heal from anxious attachment, stop chasing unavailable love, and build the secure relationships and community you deserve.
Today, we're talking about something that might feel counterintuitive, how being too sweet can actually disconnect you from your authentic self and limit your ability to form deep, genuine relationships.
Let's first take a moment to explain what we mean by sweet as a survival strategy. This isn't about being naturally kind or compassionate. Those are beautiful qualities. We're talking about when sweetness becomes a mask you wear because you learned early that being agreeable, pleasant, and easygoing was the safest way to get your needs met.
From a psychological perspective, this is often what we call fawning, the fifth trauma response alongside fight, flight, freeze, and flop. When your nervous system perceives threat or instability, fawning means you become hypervigilant to others' emotional needs and present yourself as sweet, helpful, and non threatening to avoid conflict or abandonment.
I learned this pattern intimately growing up. When I was 9 and my single mother was hospitalized, my sister and I essentially had to care for ourselves. I discovered that being the sweet one worked like magic. People wanted to help me. Teachers looked out for me. Family friends would check in on us. Being sweet meant safety, connection, and getting the help I desperately needed in an insecure environment.
And this creates a deeply embedded belief. Being sweet equals being lovable and worthy of care. When you're anxiously attached, sweetness can feel like the most reliable way to keep people close and ensure they won't abandon you.
What's important to understand is that this wasn't a conscious manipulation. I had no idea I was doing it. It was my nervous system's brilliant adaptation to a scary situation. People still comment to this day, "You're so sweet," when they meet me, to the point that it became a running joke between me and a friend.
But here's the cost that many people don't recognize. When you're always the sweet one, you lose access to the full range of your emotional experience. You learn to suppress anything that might be perceived as difficult, challenging, or complex. You become afraid that if people see your anger, your frustration, your disappointment, or your needs, they'll stop loving you. So you learn to hide those parts, even from yourself.
I didn't realize how much I was suppressing until I got to college and took an acting class. I'd never acted before, I just needed a humanities credit, and my advisor suggested it as an alternative to speech class to help with my fear of public speaking. What happened in that acting class revealed something profound about emotional suppression and the hunger for authentic expression. In one of my exercises, I was given a scene in which I played Lady Macbeth. She was ambitious, manipulative, ruthless, everything I would never allow myself to be in real life, and I absolutely loved it. Acting became this incredible outlet because it felt like a safe way to express the totality of the human emotional experience without judgment and without losing people's perception of me as the sweet one.
This story illustrates how much energy it takes to constantly monitor and manage your emotional expression. When you're always being sweet, you're essentially performing rather than being.
The exhaustion of always being on emotionally is real. You lose touch with what you actually feel, what you actually want, what you actually think about things. You become so good at reading the room and adapting to what others need that you forget you have your own internal compass.
From a neurological standpoint, chronic emotional suppression actually changes your brain's wiring. The neural pathways for accessing and expressing difficult emotions become less developed, while the pathways for pleasant, agreeable responses become superhighways.
But here's what I discovered through that acting experience. Accessing my full range of emotions didn't make me a bad person. It made me more interesting, more dynamic, more real. Lady Macbeth wasn't evil because she had ambition and anger. She was compelling because she was fully human.
When you only allow yourself to express a narrow band of emotions, you're not protecting others from your humanity. You're depriving them of the opportunity to know and love the real you. So, what happens when you start to reclaim your full emotional range? The process isn't always smooth, and it's important to prepare for some challenges.
First, relationship dynamics will shift, especially in long-standing relationships. The friend who used to laugh with me about people calling me sweet didn't appreciate it when I became more assertive and started setting boundaries. She had chosen me as a friend partly because I was sweet, easygoing, and agreeable. Suddenly, I had opinions, boundaries, things I said no to.
This can be particularly challenging because the people in your life have benefited from your sweetness strategy. They've gotten used to you being the one who adapts, accommodates, and doesn't rock the boat.
Some relationships will grow and evolve with you, but others might not survive your growth. And that's actually important information about whether those relationships were based on genuine connection or on what you could provide.
There's also what we call the pendulum swing phenomenon. When someone who's been a people pleaser their whole life and they learn to set boundaries and be more assertive, sometimes they swing too far in the opposite direction in their early attempts.
I often see this with my clients. They go from being unable to say no to anything to being aggressive or harsh in their boundary setting. It's like they've been holding their breath for so long that when they finally exhale, it comes out as a burst rather than a gentle breath.
This is completely normal and part of the learning process. It takes time to find your authentic, assertive voice, one that's neither passive nor aggressive, but genuinely expressive of your needs and boundaries.
The key is having compassion for yourself during this learning process. You're essentially learning to use emotional muscles that have been dormant for years, and it's going to feel awkward at first.
And remember, some people's discomfort with your growth isn't necessarily about you becoming mean or difficult. It might be about them having to adjust to a more balanced relationship dynamic.
So, how do you reclaim your authentic self while still honoring the genuine kindness that's part of who you are?
One helpful framework comes from internal family systems therapy, or IFS. Think of your sweet persona like Joy from the movie Inside Out. It's one part of you that's been working overtime to protect you and keep you safe.
In IFS, we call this sweetness a protector part. This part of you learned to be charming, agreeable, and pleasant because it kept you safe and got your needs met. We want to appreciate what this part has done for us, while also allowing for other parts of ourselves to have a voice as well.
The goal isn't to eliminate your sweetness, it's to expand beyond it so that your kindness becomes a choice rather than a compulsion, authentic rather than strategic.
Start by getting curious about your full emotional range. When someone does something that bothers you, instead of immediately smoothing it over, pause and ask, what am I actually feeling right now? What would I say if I didn't have to be sweet about this?
Practice expressing preferences in low stakes situations. Instead of, whatever you want is fine with me, try, I'd actually prefer this option, but I'm open to hearing your thoughts.
Give yourself permission to have opinions, even when they might create minor conflicts or disappointment. Your perspective matters, and people who truly care about you want to know what you actually think, not just what you think they want to hear.
If you're worried about becoming mean or difficult, remember that there's a huge spectrum between being a people pleaser and being aggressive. Authentic assertiveness is warm, clear, and respectful. It's not about being harsh.
And here's something that might surprise you. When you start showing up more authentically, you'll actually attract people who are drawn to your real personality, not just your agreeableness. And these tend to be much deeper, more satisfying relationships.
The science of emotional suppression reveals why the sweet survival strategy can be so persistent and what happens in our brains when we consistently suppress parts of ourselves. Dr. James Gross's research on emotion regulation shows that chronic suppression of negative emotions doesn't just hide them from others. It actually increases physiological stress responses, including elevated cortisol and blood pressure. This explains why people who are always sweet often experience unexplained anxiety, fatigue, or physical tension. Neuroimaging studies by Dr. Kevin Oshner demonstrates that when we suppress emotional expression, the prefrontal cortex has to work overtime to inhibit the limbic system. This constant internal management is exhausting and can lead to what researchers call ego depletion, a state where your capacity for self-regulation becomes diminished. Perhaps most importantly, Dr. Brené Brown's research on vulnerability shows that authentic connection requires what she calls wholehearted living, the courage to show up as our imperfect, complete selves. Her studies revealed that people who allow themselves to be seen fully, including their difficult emotions, report higher levels of life satisfaction and more meaningful relationships. The encouraging news is that emotional authenticity can be learned at any age. Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett's research on emotional granularity shows that when we practice identifying and expressing our full range of emotions, we actually expand our capacity for emotional intelligence and interpersonal connection.
So let's get to the heart of it. If you've spent years being the sweet one, I want you to know that your kindness isn't the problem. It's beautiful and valuable. The problem is when sweetness becomes the only way you're allowed to exist in the world. You're allowed to be fully human. You're allowed to have opinions that might disappoint someone. You're allowed to feel frustrated, angry, or sad without having to immediately brighten up to make others comfortable. You're allowed to take up space with your authentic thoughts and feelings. The people who truly love you want to know the real you, not just the convenient, easy version. They want to see your complexity, your depth, your full range of human experience. When you hide parts of yourself to maintain relationships, you're not protecting those relationships. You're preventing them from becoming truly intimate and meaningful. Reclaiming your authentic self isn't about becoming selfish or unkind. It's about expanding your capacity to be genuine while still choosing kindness when it feels true to you. It's about letting your sweetness be one beautiful color in a full palette of human expression. Your journey toward authenticity might feel scary at first, especially if people have loved you for your agreeableness. But the relationships that can grow and evolve with your full self are the ones worth keeping. And the new connections you'll make when you show up authentically will be deeper and more nourishing than anything you could have experienced while wearing a mask. You deserve to be loved for who you actually are, not just for how sweet you can be. Your full self, messy, complex, and beautifully human, is worthy of love and belonging.
What's one way you could show up more authentically this week? Maybe it's expressing a preference you usually keep to yourself, or acknowledging a feeling you typically push down. Let us know in the comments below.
Up next, we're diving deeper into internal family systems and exploring how different parts of ourself develop to protect us.
Your time is valuable. Thank you for sharing some of it with us today. If you found this helpful, please give it a like. And if you know someone who might be struggling with feeling like they can only be the sweet one, please share this video. It could provide the permission they need to embrace their full self.
Subscribe and take care of your heart. And remember, you're not alone. We're all in this together.